The steak was still oozing red on my plate when she said it. Apologize or leave. She didn't raise her voice. Didn't beg. Just laid it down like a judge handing out a sentence. And somehow, I was the defendant in my own damn kitchen. Same kitchen I retiled myself last Christmas after Noah drove a chair leg straight through the floor. Said it was an accident. Same table I built from reclaimed walnut the year Liam graduated and couldn't stop crying because, once again, his dad bailed. Didn't even call. I sat there with a fork in my hand, looking around. Liam was pushing potatoes around his plate like nothing had happened. Noah let out a laugh, chewing like he owned the place. Come on, Marcus, not this rent talk again, he said. You sound like a damn eviction notice. I didn't smile. Wasn't trying to be funny. It's been 6 months since he finished college. Since then, all he's done is drink my beer, borrow my tools, and lounge in that $1,000 gaming chair, in the same room where I used to read him bedtime stories. And Emma? She looked at me like I was some stranger trying to discipline a dog that wasn't mine. You don't talk to my boys like that, she said, slow and sharp, like the words were carved out of ice. Apologize or leave. 60 years old. 2 wars under my belt. Missed the birth of my own nephew fixing radar equipment in the middle of a typhoon. Raised those boys like they were mine, even when their real father only sent postcards, twice a year if we were lucky, and couldn't be bothered to remember their birthdays. I taught Noah how to drive. Sat up all night with Liam when that flu scared the hell out of us. I paid for braces, college applications, car repairs. Signed checks without a word. Fixed pipes before anyone noticed a leak. Now here I was, tossed aside like some unwelcome guest who'd overstayed. I looked at Emma. Her lips were pinched tight, her eyes a little glassy, but still cold. And right then, for the first time in 22 years, I knew she'd already packed her exit plan. I just never got to read the fine print. So I stood up, set the fork down gentle as I could. The steak sat there untouched, bleeding out like some small crime scene. And I walked toward the sliding glass door. I caught Emma's eyebrow twitch. She was waiting for a last word, something dramatic. But I didn't give her that. No speech, no grand exit, no slamming doors. Just the sound of my boots tapping slow across the tile. The hush of the screen door opening, and the silence of them not following. Outside, the wind smelled like burnt leaves and rain off in the distance. I got in the truck, turned the key. The engine rumbled quieter than I expected, like even it knew the moment had passed. I didn't pack a bag, didn't take a single thing, because when you're not leaving, you just go. You don't plan it. You move. The driver's seat creaked under me, like it remembered more than it should. Same truck I used to haul Noah's first bike. He cried back then because the spokes weren't the color he wanted. Same truck I drove Emma's mom to every dialysis appointment after her stroke. Same truck I took from hardware store to hardware store hunting down the exact tile Emma wanted for the upstairs bathroom, because cream and ivory, apparently, are very different. I pulled up to the lake. The one with the crooked dock and the busted bench we never bothered to fix. The one where I showed both boys how to bait a hook, even when they were squeamish about the worms. Noah reeled in his first bluegill here. Liam cried when we had to toss his back. I spent nights sanding rods, watching casting tutorials on YouTube, just trying to keep their interest when fishing stopped competing with iPads. Now the lake was still, quiet, like it was waiting on me to say something. But I had nothing left. I leaned the seat back, crossed my arms, stared up at the ceiling of the cab. Old receipts dangled from the visor. One from that gas station outside Springfield, where Noah puked up chili dogs in the back seat. One from a roadside diner where Emma claimed the eggs were the worst she'd ever had, then cleaned her plate anyway. I could have booked a motel, had the cash for it, but that would have felt like punishment. And this wasn't about that. This was clarity. I let the engine idle. Not sure why. Maybe just to pretend like I still had a destination. Or maybe because silence had started to sound like surrender. Didn't sleep much. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw them. Emma, folding her napkin like she was straightening up after a mess. Noah, that smug grin still stuck on his face. Liam, eyes glued to the fridge like he was watching a rerun he didn't want to comment on. My chest felt tight, like someone had strapped a belt around my ribs and forgot to leave room to breathe. And I wasn't even mad. That's what stung the most. If I'd been angry, I could have run on that. But instead, all I felt was this empty ache. Like my name had been scratched out of their story and no one even noticed until I turned the page. Around 5:42 a.m., a squirrel jumped on the hood and scared the hell out of me. I laughed. A real one, short, bitter, and sharp. First time I'd laughed since dinner. It looked at me for a second, like it was judging me, then scurried off. I started the truck again. Put it in gear. Didn't look back. Didn't check the rear view. Didn't touch my phone. North seemed like the only direction that didn't point to regret. And the farther I drove, the more it sank in. I didn't walk out defeated. I left because, for the first time, I finally understood. I was the only one who ever stayed. When I walked out that night, Emma didn't even glance up from her phone. She thought it was just another one of my cooling-off strolls. Like I was a grumpy retriever who needed to go sniff a few trees and come back wagging my tail. She dabbed her mouth with a napkin and said, real calm, he'll be back once he realizes he overreacted. Like I was out taking the trash and forgot the way home. Noah laughed. He'll crawl back by Friday. He always does. Liam didn't say a word. Just poured himself another glass of water and kept his eyes on the fridge. That's the part that gets you. When people confuse your dependability for obedience. Like showing up means you'll always show up, no matter how you're treated. Monday came. My side of the bed stayed untouched. Emma made it anyway. Tight, neat hospital corners, like she was erasing evidence. Tuesday, she called the shop. Sophie, the part-time bookkeeper, picked up. Nope, haven't seen him, she said. Everything okay? Of course, Emma replied, lying through her teeth. Just forgot where he said he'd be today. She didn't mention dinner. Didn't bring up the ultimatum. You ever hear the sound of a man choosing silence over being someone's servant? That's what it was. By Wednesday, Noah had already claimed my recliner like he paid the mortgage, kicked back with his feet up, video game controller in hand, and a mouth stuffed full of potato chips. Might have just needed a break from your nagging, he mumbled, eyes locked on the screen, not even glancing in his mother's direction. Emma didn't say a word to him. She was too busy scrolling through her phone. Again. And again. Come Thursday afternoon, she was dialing my brother out in Nevada. Hey, is Marcus with you? She asked. There was a pause. Then, should he be? She added, quieter this time. No answer to that one. By Friday, something in the air had changed. It felt heavier, stale somehow. The silence had stopped being peaceful. It started to rattle, to echo through the rooms. She opened the garage and stared at the corner where I used to keep my toolbox. It was empty. That's when it hit her. There was dust in spots where my stuff used to be. I hadn't just stepped out. I'd taken things with me. On purpose. Neatly. No chaos, no yelling, no slammed doors. Just gone. She started calling the hospitals next. Gave them my full name. Then she tried the sheriff's office. Nothing came up. No accidents, no unidentified men in ERs. She didn't file a missing persons report, though. Not yet. That would have meant admitting I was actually missing. And saying it out loud would have made it real. By Friday night, Liam walked in and found her hunched over the dining table, staring down her phone like it owed her an explanation. Still nothing. She didn't even acknowledge him. He cracked open a beer, took a swig, and asked, "You really think he just took off over rent?" She blinked at him like he was a stranger. It wasn't about rent, she whispered. And it wasn't. But the truth is, she never really knew what it was about, because she never really paid attention. Marcus was just background noise to her. The guy always clanking around fixing things. I was the quiet part that held everything together. The shadow you forget is there until it disappears, and suddenly, everything starts falling apart. Saturday morning, she finally pulled up my location history. Nothing. It hadn't updated since the moment I left the house. She tried calling again. Straight to voicemail. She left a message, "Marcus, enough is enough. Come home." She didn't delete it. Instead, she played it back to herself. Over and over. And that's when it happened, the first crack in her voice. Because it finally hit her. I wasn't bluffing. I had left. Now, the town I ended up in? It wasn't a pit stop on the way to anywhere else. You had to mean to be there. One long stretch of busted blacktop led into it, just a single gas station, a dive bar that still sold cigarettes behind the counter, and a mechanic's shop with a rusted-out sign that hadn't changed since Reagan was in office. That's what made it perfect. I parked across the street and stared up at the swinging sign. JR's Auto and Welding used to come here with my old man in the summers when I was 10. I still remember the smell, oil, and burnt toast. Hank Williams crooning from a dusty radio up on a chipped shelf. JR's long gone now. His boy, Ethan, runs the place these days. He's slower, talks less, got a few teeth missing, but his eyes are still sharp, like he's always reading you. When I told him I was looking for a place to crash, he didn't press. Just gave me a quick once-over, squinted like he was checking a level, then said, "Room upstairs. Cash only. No noise. No guests." "Sounds perfect," I said. He handed over a key that looked like it came off a jailhouse ring, then turned back to his carburetor like the conversation never happened. I liked that about him. The room smelled like WD-40 and old paperback novels. One window. A mattress stiff enough to realign your back. A wobbly chair. A mini fridge that buzzed like it was preparing for takeoff. I unpacked a small duffel, just 2 shirts, a razor, and a beat-up copy of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance I hadn't cracked open since '96. And for the first time in a long, long while, I didn't feel like I owed comfort to anyone else. I kept my head down. Fixed what needed fixing. On the second day, Mrs. Margaret, the widow who ran the bakery, wheeled in a busted-up walker. Her hand shook when she asked if I could take a look. Didn't ask what she'd pay me. Just gave her a nod. Tightened the bolts, cleaned the wheels, greased the hinges. Next morning, she came back to find it sitting outside the garage. Next to it was a bag of shortbread cookies and a thermos of hot coffee. No note. No thanks. We both understood. After that, it became routine. A vet brought in a mower that wouldn't start. Some kid dragged in a BMX bike with a bent rim. An old guy handed me a fishing reel that had more rust than hope. I didn't talk much. Just got to work. Most folks paid in sandwiches, pie, or a slow, respectful nod, the kind that means something when it comes from men who've seen too much to waste words. Nobody asked about my past. Nobody cared about where I came from, why I walked with a limp when the weather turned, or why I sometimes sat still for hours like I was waiting for something that wasn't coming. I wasn't Marcus the stepdad. Not Marcus the handyman. Not the guy who always knew where the duct tape was. To Ethan, I was just M. He didn't bother remembering full names anymore. I didn't mind that. The silence out here wasn't like the silence back home. That silence accused you. This one just existed. Most nights, I'd sit behind the garage with my legs stretched out, sipping coffee, watching the sun fade behind the treeline. I didn't touch my phone. Didn't check the news. Didn't bother with the weather forecast. I just waited for the stars to remind me I was still alive. My sleep came easier. My dreams got quieter. No calendar on the wall. Just a clock that ran 5 minutes slow. I never fixed it. Some things, I've learned, aren't supposed to follow anyone else's schedule. Emma didn't panic right away. That would have meant letting her guard down. And that's not her style. She doesn't do vulnerable, she does control. Figured I'd crawl back after a few days in some cheap motel with a broken remote and bad coffee. But when a week passed and the silence didn't go away, she switched tactics, started managing appearances. Called her sister in Montana under the excuse of just checking in. Slipped it in casually. "Oh hey, you haven't heard from Marcus, have you?" she asked. "Nope," her sister replied, mid-chill. "Why?" Emma muttered something vague about a last-minute fishing trip. Said I just needed some space. The next day, she rang up Dan from the Legion Hall. He hadn't seen me since the Christmas raffle. Same with Jake and Lily, the neighbors who used to wake me up at 2 a.m. to fix their busted furnace back when Noah still wore diapers. Every call made the knot in her chest pull tighter. She even reached out to Chris, my old Air Force buddy, the guy I once drove 3 states for after his wife passed. Chris's voice was cold. "If you wanted to be found," he told her, "you already would have." She didn't even finish the call. The thing is, Emma never realized that while she played queen of the household, I was the frame holding up the whole damn castle. I wasn't looking for a pat on the back. I just kept things running. Without me around, things just stopped working. Liam tried doing laundry and somehow managed to flood the downstairs bathroom. Noah, bless him, fried a whole circuit board messing with the Wi-Fi router like he was some tech wizard. They ended up ordering takeout 4 nights straight, long enough for the delivery guy to start greeting Noah by name and cracking jokes like, "Hey, the old man ever coming back?" Then came the mortgage. Due date hit him square in the face. No one could find the checkbook. After that, it was the insurance bill. Then the gas. Then those quarterly tax forms for the garage, the ones I always handled like clockwork. Turned out, old Marcus the ghost had been the one quietly keeping the whole machine running. Emma didn't know the login info for a single account. Couldn't open the shop books. Didn't know the alarm system reset every Sunday night unless you manually overrode it. She found that out the hard way, 3 a.m., sirens blaring, cops knocking on the door. By week 2, she opened the kitchen's junk drawer and just stared at it like it was a foreign language. To her, that drawer had always looked like chaos, random screws, paper clips, keys to God knows what, and a million post-its. To me, it was order. It was how I kept everything together. And now it was empty. Every time she tried to sort through the mess, find a receipt, remember a password, track down a manual, she hit the same brick wall. That was a Marcus thing. And Marcus wasn't picking up his phone. Noah gave it a try. Called once. Left a voicemail that probably felt profound in his head. "Hey man, if this is like some lesson or whatever, okay, cool, we get it. But it's getting out of hand." I bet he practiced that speech. Thought it made him sound mature. It didn't. They weren't worried about me. They were panicking because they suddenly realized they didn't know how to function without the guy they treated like furniture. By week 3, Emma found herself in the garage, staring at that calendar I used to mark oil changes and parts orders. She reached up and touched the nail where my tool belt used to hang. Just a small thing, a bare little nail, but it undid her. Because that's when it hit her. I didn't forget to take it. I chose to leave it behind. Because I wanted her to feel what life looks like without the man who never asked for a thank you, but damn well earned it. They used to joke that I was just the wrench guy. Emma said it once at a Christmas party, wine glass in hand, box Merlot already halfway gone. Marcus handles the greasy stuff. I handle the real business. Everybody laughed. I smiled, poured myself another bourbon, and didn't say a word. But now, without the wrench guy, the whole operation was bleeding out slow, quiet, and unstoppable. It started with a delay in parts. Emma couldn't log into the distributor's dashboard. The password lived in my head. Nowhere else. She called the rep, hit voicemail. Tried email. Nothing. Turns out, if you don't pay your invoices on time, and your emails don't include the exact order codes, folks stop being polite real quick. Then came the scheduling nightmare. I had a system old-school paper calendar in the back, sticky notes color-coded by job type. Looked like a mess, but it worked better than any app Emma ever pitched. She once dropped $700 on a fancy scheduling system. Never finished setting it up. Still have the box in the attic, probably. No? Appointments overlapped. 2 clients showed up at 9 a.m., only one bay open. One of them left angry and didn't come back. The following week, a woman called 3 times about her Ford Focus, which had been sitting untouched in the shop for 4 days. No callbacks. She towed it to another place, then left a scathing 1-star help review. That was the spark that lit the fuse. Mr. Walter, the old widower with the 1979 Ranchero, used to bring lemon bars every Thursday after I rotated his tires. He stopped coming. And word travels fast in towns like ours. People didn't come for the logo on the door. They came because I remembered their names. Their dogs' names. That weird sound their car had been making since 2016. But I was gone, and the place started unraveling. The books? A total disaster. Receipts jammed into a shoebox like someone tried to hide them during a fire drill. Emma hired a part-time accountant. Guy quit after a week. Said the ledgers looked like a ransom note written by a raccoon. His words. Then payroll bounced. Twice. Noah, always trying, figured he'd pitch in by ordering parts himself. Ended up paying double for knockoff alternators from a shady dropshipper in Vietnam. 3 refund attempts later, Emma banned him from touching the shop computer. Liam volunteered too. Lasted a day and a half before declaring it too repetitive and bailing. Me? I used to be up at 5:30 every morning. Drove in, swept the floor, restocked inventory, and sharpened the mower blades, those same dull blades we kept swearing we'd replace someday. I knew who needed a payment plan and who'd slip you a 20 if you knocked $50 off for fast work. I knew which light flickered when the AC kicked on too hard and how to kick the furnace just right to get it humming again. They didn't know any of that. Didn't want to know. Until they had to. By the end of the month, we'd lost 4 long-time clients. Emma was making desperate phone calls, using that fake sweet voice she saved for church and high-stakes situations. Offering discounts. Promising better service. Begging, basically. No one bit. The shop felt different now. Used to have warmth in it, old rock playing low on the radio, smell of motor oil and fresh coffee in the air. Now it smelled like dust and quiet panic. Whenever someone asked where I was, they'd say I was just taking a little time off. But you could hear it in Emma's voice when she said off. A tiny crack that gave it away. They didn't know if I was coming back. And for the first time, they were starting to understand. I might not want to. Then one Tuesday, it showed up. Rain was tapping on the window like an old friend too embarrassed to knock. Ethan slid it across the workbench, setting it down next to a busted toaster someone had dropped off the day before. Mail for him, he said with a little smirk, like it was some inside joke. No one in town knew my full name. Not even Ethan. I didn't correct him. Didn't matter. There was no return address. No stamp either. Someone had dropped it off by hand. Someone who didn't want to reply, just a reaction. The envelope was pale pink, cheap stationery, wrinkled like it had been buried in the bottom of a purse for weeks. I stared at it for a while, seriously thought about tossing it straight in the trash. But curiosity, man, it's a hell of a drug. I opened it. For words, scrawled in Emma's unmistakable, hurried pen. Come home. You win. No apology. No reflection. No ownership. Just a weak little flare fired into the sky from a sinking ship that never thought it'd take on water. I read it once. Twice. Then I laughed. A dry, bitter, chest-deep kind of laugh. The kind that tastes like iron. Ethan peeked his head in from the garage, curious. I shook my head and waved him off. He didn't press. I walked behind the shop, to the old burned barrel I dragged out of the weeds the week I arrived. Dropped the envelope in. Struck a match. Watched it curl and blacken, folding on itself like it was ashamed of its own words. 3 weeks. And that's all she could muster. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I was wrong. Just, you made your point. As if this was some game of chicken and I'd won a trophy instead of decades of silence. I pulled out the beat-up spiral notebook I kept in the drawer next to my bed. The one with oil smudges on the corners and a broken spine. I flipped to a blank page and wrote in block letters. This isn't about a point. It's about how I was never in the picture. Just in the background. Underlined background twice. Closed the book. There was a time I would have clung to that letter like a rope. Shown up with flowers. Apologized for making her uncomfortable. Called the boys and pretended we were all just misunderstood. But that man, Marcus the peacemaker, Marcus the glue, he stayed behind in that kitchen. What she doesn't understand is, the silence isn't the punishment. It's the freedom she never realized I craved. It started with the lawnmower. Noah ran over a half-buried rope toy the neighbor's dog had left behind. Something snapped. The engine gave one last wheeze and died. He popped the hood, stared down like it might fix itself out of fear. Then he called Liam. Liam Googled a YouTube video. Watched a guy named Grassman 1980 explain carburetors for 14 minutes. Tried to follow along. Ended up covered in oil and grass pulp, bolts scattered like dice on the driveway. Emma watched from the porch, arms crossed. You're getting grease on your shirt, she snapped. Noah barked back. Maybe if Marcus hadn't vanished, the mower wouldn't be our problem. The silence that followed hit harder than the broken engine. Later that week, the upstairs toilet backed up, overflowed into the hallway. Liam grabbed a plunger, went at it like he was fighting a burglar. Made it worse. Emma screamed when the water crept into the linen closet. They called a plumber. 3 days out. In the meantime, they used the gas station down the street. Noah swore it smelled like old ham and wet carpet. Emma refused to go. Liam nearly got into a fistfight with the attendant after asking for the bathroom key too many times. The water heater quit next. Pilot light dead. Emma stood in the basement in her robe, clutching a lighter with shaking hands. She'd seen Marcus do it 100 times. She just never bothered to learn how. After 10 minutes, she gave up. Showered in cold water. Cried into a towel. That night, she stood in the kitchen, opened a drawer, and pulled out a screwdriver. She didn't need it. She just needed to feel like she knew what to do with it. The next morning, she knocked over the recycling bin. Bottles clattered across the floor. She bent to pick one up and noticed the thermostat blinking red. The HVAC was failing. Again. She stared at the screen, heart pounding, unable to look away. Because she realized something brutal. Marcus never let it get this far. She used to tease him for being obsessive, always checking pilot lights, flushing toilets at odd hours, tightening screws no one noticed were loose. She thought he did it because he was bored. No. He did it because that's what a foundation does. It supports things quietly, invisibly, without applause. Until one day, the house creaks a little louder, and you realize the foundation's gone. The mail started piling up. The garage bills. Late notices. The accounts were locked under Marcus's passwords, behind Marcus's systems, in a world Marcus built and never explained. Because no one ever asked. And now? They were locked out of everything, not just the systems, but the rhythm, the peace, the comfort of knowing things just worked. Every squeaky door, every flickering bulb, every slow drain, every small thing they ignored before now screamed the same truth. Marcus was the one who made this house livable. Not big, not loud, but indispensable. And now? He was gone, and everything was falling apart. One screw, one silence. One, how did he do that again, at a time? For weeks. 28 days. 672 hours of deliberate quiet. I hadn't powered the phone on once. Left it in the glove box, battery dead, screamed cold, like a body waiting for autopsy. I told myself I'd never turn it back on. That I didn't need the noise, the excuses, the drama. But that morning, something shifted. Maybe it was the kid from the welding class who gave me a drawing of me fixing his bike with a big red crayon heart over my face. Maybe it was the smell of maple smoke from Ethan's griddle. Or maybe I just wanted to see if they were still pretending I didn't matter. I held the phone like it might bite me. Plugged it in. Sat on the shop floor while it blinked itself back to life. When the screen finally lit up, it stuttered under the weight of all of it. 79 missed calls. 42 voicemails. 134 unread texts. I scrolled. Emma. 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 Noah. Emma. Liam. Unknown. Emma. I opened the first voicemail out of morbid curiosity. Noah's voice. Seriously? You've made your point, dude. This is getting pathetic. Grow up and come back. We need you at the garage. Click. Second one. Emma. Tired. Irritated. You're being dramatic. This isn't what adults do. You're hurting the boys. Click. Third one. Liam. Quiet. I know I haven't said much, but, we didn't mean to. You just kinda left, man. I guess. Just call Mom. Fourth. Emma again. Different tone this time. Shaky. Marcus. I was wrong. Please come back. I miss you. The boys miss you. The house doesn't feel right. I don't feel right. Her voice cracked on the word miss, like just saying it cost her something she didn't want to give. I didn't delete the message. I saved it. Not because I needed it, but because she did. The texts? Man, they were a carousel of guilt and confusion. A horror reel of passive-aggressive guilt trips tangled up with desperation. One day it was, hope you're okay. Next day, grow up. A few days later, we don't even know where the septic switch is. Then, please, just tell me you're safe. Then, I can't sleep. And eventually, please, please, I'll do anything. I set the phone down on the workbench and let it buzz again. Another call. Let it buzz until it gave up. I didn't answer. Didn't flinch. Because here's what they never got, not really. This wasn't about staying quiet anymore. It was about finally being in a place where I didn't have to yell just to feel seen. So no, I didn't reply. I just let them marinate in the same quiet they once used as a weapon against me. And now? That same silence was screaming back at them. I didn't warn anyone I was coming back. No text. No dramatic voicemail. No folded note tucked under a windshield wiper. I just drove. The highway felt narrower somehow. Like I'd outgrown it. Like I was too big for the lanes and the world hadn't caught up. Didn't bring bags. Just a gas station coffee and a sense of stillness I'd earned the hard way. The kind of stillness that only shows up once you stop living for other people. Pulled into the driveway like a ghost circling the site of his own murder. Same cracked concrete. Same busted wind chime missing that one metal tube. But the house? It looked different now. Smaller. Sagging. Like it knew it had been found out. I let myself in. Door squeaked, just like it always had. No one oiled it. Not since me. Inside, the air didn't feel warm or familiar. It felt empty. Hollow. Noah was slouched on the couch, hoodie up, cereal bowl in one hand, game controller in the other. He looked up and froze. Mouth open just enough to look stupid. Marcus. I didn't say anything. Didn't blink. Just gave him a slow nod and kept walking. Past the kitchen tile I laid by hand, the same tile that still had a chip from the time Noah flipped his chair back too hard showing off. Past the hall closet where I stored storm supplies. Pretty sure they didn't even know that stuff was there. Down the basement stairs. One step at a time. Like I was descending into the bones of a life I'd already buried. I flipped the workshop light on. It flickered, half-hearted. Room smelled like mildew, dust, and the kind of neglect that builds up when nobody cares enough to keep the gears turning. My tool chest was still there, right where I'd left it, but I could tell someone had tried to move it. Scratches on the floor. Drag marks. Idiots didn't even unlock the casters. I opened it up. Everything still in place. Metric wrenches on the left. Standard on the right. Torque tools wrapped in rags like little relics. I rolled the whole chest over to the stairs. Then I turned to the pegboard. Took down 3 framed photos. One of Emma, from our trip to Yellowstone, before the boys, before all the noise. One of the boys, fishing with me, grinning like they meant it. And one of my father and me, standing in a rain of welding sparks, his hand on my shoulder, solid and steady. Then I crouched down and opened the old army green footlocker beneath the stairs. Pulled out the velvet case with my Air Force medals. Still sealed. Still untouched. Nobody ever asked about them. Not once. I stood there a moment, just taking it all in. Thought about leaving a note. Something poetic. Something heavy. But no, they didn't earn closure. I carried the chest up the stairs, one stair at a time. Noah was still frozen in the living room, spoon midair, eyes wide like he was seeing a ghost. He didn't speak. Didn't move. Good. I stepped out the front door. Didn't slam it. Didn't look back. Didn't have to. Because this wasn't a goodbye. This was an inventory. And I had just taken back everything that ever belonged to me. She came in through the garage, same as always. Keys jangling, muttering about traffic, arms loaded with grocery bags. Didn't notice at first. Fridge was humming, overhead light flickering. Same one I told her months ago would burn out soon. The house was still playing pretend, trying to keep up the rhythm. Like nothing had changed. But then she saw it. On the table. My handwriting. Neat. Straight. No mistaking it. She hadn't seen it in weeks. She dropped the bags. One split open. Apples rolled across the floor. A jar of pasta sauce shattered near the wall, red spreading like blood in some low-budget crime scene. She didn't notice. Didn't even flinch. She just stood there, frozen, eyes locked on that envelope like it might disappear if she blinked. Eventually, she moved. eased herself down into the chair like it might reject her, like even the furniture knew what she'd done. Her fingers shook as she opened the envelope. Inside was a check, made out to her, for half the value of the garage. Clean. Cashed out. No tricks. No strings. Underneath that, the deed to the house. Signed over. No lawyer. No fine print. Just done. And at the bottom, one small note. Written on the kind of lined paper I used back when we still pretended to leave grocery lists for each other like we were a team. It said, "You said apologize or leave." I chose to remember who I was. Before I had to beg to be seen. No name. No signature. She stared at it for a long time. Read it once. Then again. The check slipped from her hand. The deed slid off her lap and fluttered to the floor. And Emma, the woman who never cried in front of the boys, who once said grief was just drama in slow motion, collapsed. Her knees hit the tile like steel dropped on concrete. She didn't cry like they do in movies. One tear down one cheek. All neat and camera ready. This was raw. This was ugly. This was the kind of sobbing that rips out of you when something inside breaks and doesn't know how to fix itself. The kind that sounds like an animal trying to claw its way out from under skin. And for the first time, she got it. I wasn't punishing her. I wasn't asking her to say sorry. Hell, I wasn't even mad anymore. I had just removed myself. Completely. Quietly. And she'd never know the moment it actually happened. Only that it was long before dinner that night. Long before she gave me an ultimatum. Long before she forgot that I wasn't the kind of man who needed to be told how doors work. The shed I took over wasn't much. Just a crooked little box with warped siding and a tin roof that moaned when the wind changed its mind. Perfect. I painted a sign by hand. M's Repair Shop. No flashy name. No branding. No slogan. Just truth. Word spread fast. That's how it works in towns like this. Old man Gerald showed up first, holding a toaster that hadn't worked since 2011. Then Katie from the diner rolled in with a stool that wobbled like it had stage fright. Then two teenagers wheeled in a lawnmower that had eaten a shoelace and damn near tore itself apart. I didn't charge, not at first. Didn't need to. They paid with what they had, pies, jars of pickles, extra parts from their granddad's barn. It was more than enough. By the third week, the kids were calling me Mr. M. They hung around after school, and I let M. Showed them how to change oil, how to strip wires, how to patch a tire without making it worse. They listened. Not because I yelled, but because I didn't talk just to fill the air. Some days, we didn't fix anything. We just stood around the workbench, passing a thermos of root beer, talking about the way things used to be made, not replaced. At night, I'd lock up and head to the lake. Same lake. Same old bench, still crooked. Still mine. I'd sit there with my thermos, the real one this time, black coffee with a splash of bourbon if the day called for it. The stars out here don't blink behind city light. They just stare back at you. Honest. I always turn my phone off before I even hit the trail. Never blocked Emma's number, though. That would have sent a notification. No, I left her unblocked. I wanted her to speak into the void. Every week, a few voicemails trickled in. Some started formal. "Hi, Marcus. Just checking in." Then came the guilt. "We were all wrong. We miss you." Then the bargaining. "Please just call." Even once. One ended with just silence. A breath. Then a sob. I saved that one. Not to gloat. Not to rewind it like a trophy. Just to remember what it sounds like when someone realizes the value of something after it's already gone. I never replied. Because there's a kind of cruelty deeper than yelling. More precise than revenge. It's absence. It's taking everything you used to give so freely, your time, your effort, your ability to explain the same damn thing 3 times because no one listened the first 2, and locking it away. Not out of spite, but out of peace. I built something out here. Something that can't be touched, can't be dismantled, can't be dismissed with a sarcastic laugh and a wave of the hand. I became a story in their house. A shadow that used to fix things. Now, I fix what I want to fix. And when I'm done, I don't turn on the porch light. I don't check my phone. I don't wait for anyone. I just sit in the quiet I earned. Because some people don't deserve closure. They deserve to wonder forever. Dear viewer, thank you for your invaluable viewing. We will be very grateful for your likes, subscriptions, comments, and sharing our story. See you soon.